What is up, y'all? Snipes-n-Snarfblatts, your unauthorized place for Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. As always, I'm your host, Jason, and we have got a slew of cool stuff to talk about today. Everything from TV spots and new trailers in the Disney Empire to some speculation on where Marvel's going to go post-Endgame, post-Spider-Man Far From Home, and what we're really going to get into from there. But before I get into all of that, I'm going to talk about something I haven't talked about on the site yet, and that is Hulu. We talked before that ever since this Fox buyout, that Disney had controlling stake and controlling interest in Hulu. Well, now, as of a couple days ago, it seems that Disney has positioned itself to now be in full control of Hulu, and they're going to kind of bundle it like they do our cable packages, and they're going to bundle Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus all together in one bundle, so you can get them cheaper if you get them all like that than if you were to get them one by one. The usual bundle stick, you know what I'm saying? We're all used to that by now. But anyway, Comcast owned the other 33%, right? And Comcast has agreed to sell its 33% stake within 5 years for at least $9.2 billion. So basically, that means that's fair market value as of right now. That's why they say at least. So if the fair market value goes up, they just want fair market value for whatever they're going to get out of this. And it's going to cause some changes to the Hulu lineup of stuff you're used to. Basically, everything NBC Universal, Comcast companies, NBC and Universal, they can pull its content licensing by 2022, and they've extended their license till 2024. So basically, what that means is you'll see those NBC Universal shows there till probably around 2024. But after 2022, their exclusivity to Hulu is going to wear out, and you're going to start seeing them pop up in other places. I heard from elsewhere that NBC Universal is actually going to do their own streaming service, and it's going to be fully ad-based, kind of like how Hulu was when it first started. So it's going to be free, but it's going to have ads. So I mean, it's going to pay for stuff with the ad time. As more and more people watch it, the ads will go down, and I'm sure eventually will evolve into a form of subscription, kind of like Hulu's setup is right now and how it was from the time it first started. So I mean, expect that coming. But what's that mean for Hulu is what it really comes down to, and what's that mean for Disney? And honestly, I've been saying this. I have a feeling Disney Plus is going to be the family side of Disney and Fox and Marvel and all that stuff. Your MCU, your everything that happens within there is going to happen on your Disney Plus. Your more adult programming, like these adult cartoons they've got lined up from Marvel, the stuff you're used to on Netflix from Marvel, the Hulu shows you've got now from Marvel, and the ones they've already talked about, like the Ghost Rider and Hellstrom we were talking about a week or two ago. That's going to be Hulu's kind of MO. I guarantee you're probably going to see a lot of the R-rated Fox stuff pop up over here on Hulu. All the more adult-orientated shows, they're all going to pop up here on Hulu more so than you're going to see them feed out on Disney Plus. It's actually a really good plan for Disney because that lets Disney keep its two distinct brands, and one's not going to falter into the other one. Because there will be a lot of, you all of a sudden throw Alien on Disney Plus, you're going to have some fallback from some certain uptight people who are going to be like, why is that on my family channel? You know what I'm saying? So now you throw that over on Hulu, you throw some stuff like that on Hulu and just really even it out. Like you couldn't do a Ghost Rider and Hellstrom on Disney Plus's family network. You know what I'm saying? They just would not be for that. So I personally, that's how I think they're going to treat this. Like I haven't heard anything, but Iger has confirmed, everyone has confirmed this is what Comcast is doing. Comcast is selling them to 33%, and Hulu will now belong to Disney. So Disney will have two streaming services. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards this one's going to be a little more adult, while Disney's is a little more family. But like I said, that's just me kind of reading into it and guessing what they're going to do. I wanted to get that out off top because that just hit a couple days ago, and I didn't really talk about it on the site because I didn't really know where to put it because it kind of affects everything. So I just saved it for the show. So show goes on. We're going to get into business as usual, and we're going to bring out that good old mouse in the desk lamp. And the mouse in the desk lamp, as y'all know, is where we talk about all things Disney and Pixar. So we're going to start off with what you can obviously see I'm a little bit excited for, judging by the set this week, and that's Aladdin. They have flooded TV spots for Aladdin to the point where I haven't even touched them all, but there was one in particular that kind of worried me in a spot that I knew I was going to be worried anymore. As excited as I've been getting and as I've been coming around to how much I'm loving how this Aladdin looks, there was a thing in the back of my head that kept saying, now you know Genie has 2 songs, and you know Will Smith is going to turn those songs into rap. And I honestly thought he was going to go the real flashy Will Smith version of rapping them out, you know what I'm saying? And that's honestly what it looks like from Friend Like Me. I haven't heard much of Friend Like Me, just a couple excerpts, but the people that heard it at CinemaCon said they were really into it. So I was very shocked when I saw this Prince Ali clip they put up. You know, the Prince Ali, fabulous is he. Well, instead of singing it at all, really, I guess he's rapping it, but in all honesty, he's not even doing that. He's more of a just kind of talking through it. I mean, there's no flash to it. I mean, you remember the cartoon, how Genie, when he's like, fight 1,000 bad guys with swords, and he turns into the little kid, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I even thought maybe if they just like shot that and made a kid do it, shot that, made an old man do it, instead of Genie turning into him, he just kind of like makes them do something or say something. It was just something to add to at least some visual to what honestly came off as a very boring interpretation. It was low energy, same words from the original song, but I mean, it's more like Prince Ali, fabulous is he, Ali of Babwa. And instead of even having as much swag as I delivered it with right now, it's like all the Will Smith like swag that usually would be oozing out of a Will Smith performance and just so overhypeness. Will Smith came off as like trying to be into like some gangster rap mode or something, it seemed like, because I mean, he was just like, he's just basically talking his way through this thing. Like, I don't know, like I said, the energy seemed real low. Now, they didn't show the whole song, they just showed the opening up into the fight 1,000 bad guys with swords and galloping hordes and all of that. But I wasn't feeling this song. I was very bored while watching this. Now, it didn't crush any of my excitement that I've had going into this, because judging from everything else I've seen, this movie looks really good. So, I mean, yeah, if he bumbles a couple songs, it's going to hurt, and it's probably going to take this from great down to okay, or not even okay, but really good. So I'm not totally at a loss for this, but I am a little bit let down, because I expected a little more charisma out of Will Smith than I was getting here. He has so much charisma during all the speaking roles and so much charisma in his performance, as you see as the Genie through all these TV spots they've done, that it was really weird to see him just completely let it down right there. And I was just, I don't know, just seemed like a very odd way to do things when it comes to this. And, I mean, that's all I'm going to really spend on that, because, like I said, we'll know next week. We are 1 week away now. Next week, we're finally going to get to see this movie. I am really crunk about seeing it, and I'll let y'all know the second I get out of theater, as I always do, what I think of it. And speaking of strange things, though, we got this news this week, too, and that is, there's, coming from Slash Film, they put up the fact that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is planning on trying to reboot it with Josh Gad. They're going to call it Shrunk. And I love the word that Slash Film uses in this, because they call it a legacy-quel. What is a legacy-quel, you might ask? Well, it's a reboot, but it's not technically a reboot because they're using characters you're familiar with from the originals, so it's technically a sequel, but it takes place so far away from the originals that it's not a sequel. Hey, it's very confusing. I don't know whether this is a sequel or a reboot. I personally think it's so confusing that I would have probably just went the reboot route and tried to just redo this from the jump. I love Josh Gad. Don't get me wrong. I think Josh Gad is a great pick for this. But he's playing Wayne Selinsky's son, Nick, who, go figure, does the same thing all over again that Wayne did, and we're shrinking some kids again, it sounds like. So I don't know, man. Like, that just too convenient for me, I guess, is one way to put it. It's a very convenient sequel. That's why I don't like the way they do these legacy sequels, as we're calling them now. I love that word, by the way. But I don't really get these. If you're gonna reboot. If you're gonna sequel, to call it both and basically say this is a sequel, but we're going to hit the exact same notes as the original. Just seems like a way to have your cake and eat it too, I guess, for lack of ways to put it. But I don't know, y'all. Every time Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is mad. It's lightning in a bottle. It was great. They shrunk them down. They used these big set pieces. I still remember the honeybee. I still remember going to Hollywood Studios where they had all the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids stuff set up, and it looked like you were shrunk when you go into the little room, and everything was huge, even the blades of grass. So you basically got to see the set they were on. And I loved this. Like I said, lightning in a bottle, though, even as magical as it was, every attempt we've tried to do it since, whether it be Blew Up the Kid, Shrunk Ourselves, hell, even Shrunk the Audience from Epcot, they weren't good. They were just schlock. I mean, they were nightmare. It was just, it was so bad, because, I mean, it was just them trying to just go through the motions of doing it over again. It was those 80s sequels where things got weird because, well, like they made the joke in the 22 Jump Street of do exactly what you did last time again. And that's kind of how these felt. I do exactly what you did last time again, whether we spin it to blowing it up or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or we shrunk ourselves this time. It was still the same loop of things going on over and over, and I'm honestly scared we're about to do that again. That's why I would love to call this a reboot, to just say we're reintroducing this to new fans and we're giving it all together. But I mean, to make him the son, we're just going to keep paying homage to that original again. It's just going to feel like we're going through the motions. I feel that for some reason. Now, they mentioned this was originally in the talks for Disney Plus, but Slash Film said they had heard that they're going for a major theatrical release with this. So, I don't know what to think. You saw there's 50 million slots open for it from what we talked about last week. So, there's room for this to happen. I just don't know if I want it to happen or not. But anyway, we're going to move out of that and we're going to get to something that I also didn't want to happen at all, but kind of surprised me a little bit. And that's the first teaser trailer came out for Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, as they're calling it. And I don't know what to think about this, y'all. Like, all right, the teaser opened up with her telling the story. And the way she told the story is the way I wanted the story to be told in the original Maleficent. You know, the original movie where she's a bad guy and she tricks her into pricking her finger on a spindle and going to sleep for years, and that's the story of Sleeping Beauty, until we made Maleficent a good guy just because for some reason we have to make tragic backstory heroes out of our bad guys now instead of making them villains. And we did that to the greatest villain on Earth almost. I think Maleficent is one of the coolest villains ever. She is just one dark entity. In a land of family cartoons, she's not only summoned the powers of hell to turn into a dragon, it all started because she wasn't invited to a party. Oh, I wasn't invited to a party? Fine. I'm going to curse your baby. What? That is a level of evil on just we've never seen before, still to this day. Like, that's crazy. And that's what I wanted when I saw Maleficent. And I was really, really let down that we did this tragic anti-hero thing. However, there was one big, shining, beaming light that did come out of Maleficent, even though I didn't like the movie at all, really. And that is the perfect casting of Angelina Jolie as this evil character. She is amazing in this role. Just this is some of the best casting they've ever done with Angelina Jolie. She is great in this role. And it hurt me because every time you would see that glimmer of evil in the first movie, you'd be like, yes, this is what we need. Then you'd see her taking care, the whole scene with her raising Aurora, basically, it just took me so out of all of it that I just didn't care. So when I saw this teaser pop up, I was not excited at all, to say the least. However, and I did mention this on the site, it could have been the greatest teaser ever and I still would be a little let down. And that's where I'm at right now. That was an amazing teaser. That teaser, if you could take it at face value, which you know we can't with teaser trailers anymore, they could just be cleverly cut. But at face value, that is the evil Maleficent that we've all been waiting to see. Her back and forth with Michelle Pfeiffer. By the way, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. And her as the queen, when she looks at her and says, "If I didn't know better, I would think you were threatening me." And she looks at her and says, "Well, do you?" She said, "Do I what?" "Do you know better?" Oh my God, that was just everything I wanted Maleficent to be from the first movie and the casting of Angelina Jolie in the first place. So, like I said, this teaser did it for me. Like I said, the intro was what I want. If I could erase from my mind that the first Maleficent happened, judging by this teaser trailer, if we could take it at face value, this looks like everything I wanted to be in the first place. I think we're going to get a little more evil. I think they listened to us. Now, how much they listened to us, we won't know until this thing comes out in the fall. But I think they listened to us at least a little bit, because I'm seeing a glimmer of evil out of this Maleficent, and I'm seeing her mannerisms and the way she's so much colder than she seemed in that first. Oh man, y'all, this, like I said, this did it for me. It didn't get me excited to see it, because I've still got Maleficent in my mind, and I still think if this is great, it's still going to be brought down by how much I didn't care for the original. However, it has at least made me not dread having to go see this. I've got a little bit of hope now that I'm at least going to somewhat enjoy this movie. And I guess that's what a teaser trailer's for. So, and that means it completely did its job. But that's all I'm going to spend on the teaser. Like I said, a beautiful teaser. Can't wait. That is actually everything for Mouse and the Desk Lamp. So we're going to get out of the Mouse and the Desk Lamp, and we are going to shake things up a little bit. The categories are a little mixed up today, because we're going to go into Eyes on Isley next. And Eyes on Isley is where we talk about all things Star Wars. And there was a very, very piece of significant Star Wars news dropped by Bob Iger. And that was, he confirmed that the 2022 Star Wars movies that are going to start in 22 and go every other year that we talked about last week, they are the Benioff and Weiss Star Wars movies, the ones from the Game of Thrones guys, which I am mixed on this, because I understand, just like I understand there's people that don't like The Last Jedi, I love The Last Jedi. I understand there are people that love Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones bores me to tears. I have tried many times to get into this show, and I'm just not feeling it on the level everybody else is feeling it. But that's y'all. I fully understand this stuff, because like I said, I love Last Jedi, and I know a lot of people hate it. So, I mean, I get it. We all love different things. We all hate different things. That's the beauty of all this entertainment we're into and we talk about right now. But I'm not really into Game of Thrones, so I'm kind of wondering where their Star Wars trilogy will go. They haven't talked much about it. A lot of people have speculated we're finally going to get some old era, like Knights of the Old Republic type stuff. And in all honesty, considering they're the Game of Thrones guys, that seems more up their alley than the traditional Star Wars type story. Because then you could really get into the clans of the Sith and this, you know what I'm saying? So that makes sense to me that that's where they would go. But I really don't know where they're going to go with this. I don't know how they can put their stamp on it, because like I said, even though I'm not into Game of Thrones, I've paid enough attention to understand their style. And if they use that style into this, we're going to probably see a mini-faction type thing. So it's probably safe to say that this is going to be more of an Old Republic type thing, or an Outer Rim type thing, dealing with different factions of people. I don't know. I'm just concerned because through all of this, Disney has not said anything about the Rian Johnson trilogy that they just recently said is still going. So, I mean, whether they've merged this with Rian Johnson and they just haven't said that Benioff and Weiss's will be directed by Rian Johnson, whether Rian Johnson's still got his thing coming and it's going to eventually hit Disney Plus, or they're going to put a hold on it throughout all of these years until what, 22, 24, 26, 27? my God, 27 or 28? That's like 7 to 10 years that we're going to be waiting to hear about this Rian Johnson trilogy. So I'm really starting to wonder where Rian Johnson fits in, and if Rian Johnson fits in at all. That'll be a shame to me, because personally the reason I like Last Jedi so much is because I think Rian Johnson understands Star Wars to a level that George Lucas don't even understand Star Wars. I think he understands Star Wars on a level beyond fan service, but also with a vision of where we can go into meet new grounds. Because that's how I see Last Jedi. I saw Last Jedi as a vision into new things and at the absolute opposite of fan service. And George Lucas would balance that line between new things in his story and fan service. And to me, J.J. Abrams, as much as I love The Force Awakens, it's pure fan service almost all the way through. So I'm thinking that's where we're going with this last one, too. They're tying them all together, and it's going to be real fan servicey. So I would really like to see Rian Johnson's take, because Rian Johnson told his own story, even though it connects and it fits, and he did his own thing. He took really bold steps that surprised me and kept me on my toes throughout all of The Last Jedi. And I think that's what I like the most. Not to mention he has a psychological vision of these things, because as much as people hated Luke, I've got to be honest, all Luke did was wind up where the other old Jedi Masters ended up. They failed once and they went into seclusion because they failed. And that's the one thing that I think he was trying to point out, is that way of thinking needs to go. We need to move into a thinking of balance, actual balance. Not the Jedis are on top, not the bad guys are on top, the Sith or whatever you fill them in with, the dark side users, not either one of them on top, and actual balance where everything is actually harmonized and the choices are, not to say gray Jedi, but definitely more of a gray area. So I mean, I don't know. That's my thoughts on the Rian Johnson thing. That's why I like Rian Johnson so much, and I really want to know where he fits into all this. But Benioff and Weiss, I don't know what to think. It's Star Wars. They could probably make Game of Thrones with stuff. I think if Game of Thrones had more lightsabers and blasters in it, I would have probably been, and more alien life, I would have probably been way more into Game of Thrones. Because, I mean, as is, it just felt like old hat type stuff to me. I watch a lot of that stuff, so like it wasn't as shocking to me and new to me as everything else. But when your token thing is just to kill off characters to add shock value, it didn't really get with me either after a while, because I don't know. But you could do that with Star Wars and still have a bunch of great characters and aliens and laser swords and blasters. And so, I mean, Game of Thrones with laser swords and blasters? Yeah, I could do that. So I'm not knocking Benioff and Weiss. It just leaves me in a position where I'm wondering where my Rian Johnson went, because I'm not saying I want one or the other. I'm saying I want both of these. So, but that's it for Eyes on Isley. That quick news about that. So we're going to move into What the Fox. Real quick, we're going to move into What the Fox. I don't have much to really talk about, but I know I did say this week I was going to review Tolkien. Okay, this is what happened. I put it off until the time I could see it while the kids were in school. I went yesterday to go see it while the kids were in school. We got our tickets. We got in the theater. We're about to get in our seats. And before we even get in our seats, we walk into the lady telling them that there has been a problem with the projector, and this projector will be down all day. Unfortunately, we will not be able to show this movie. Y'all can go get a refund. So I'm thinking, great. One more time, I still have to postpone Tolkien. I honestly don't know when I'm going to get to see this movie now, because this is my last window to see it. So I don't know if I'm going to review it on time, at least. I might review it later if I really liked it, this and that, but I'm going to have to postpone Tolkien for now, and it's looking like my first Fox movie will be something that I already have tickets for. Thankfully, however, when we got let out of the theater, we were in Disney Springs, so we got to walk around, and Mac was doing this awesome pop-up where we got to get the Aladdin makeup a day early. My wife got to do a little pop-up makeup thing where they do makeup for free. They give you a little makeover. She got to try out all this stuff. We bought some. If you check Instagram, I got some really cool photo ops. They got me one where we got to ride the carpet and get a picture on the carpet, and we got one where I got to like look like I was grabbing the lamp. It was really cool photo ops. Check them out on Instagram. So that was fun. A little fun was made out of the theater dying, but I still am without tickets. So like I was saying, my next tickets are already set up for Dark Phoenix, and that's probably going to be my first Fox review now. And Dark Phoenix, if you've missed it, they did an awesome campaign over this past week as it gets closer to them releasing, and it was a real nostalgia campaign, which I thought was weird for this because a lot of the actors have changed over these 20 years. Not to mention, you have to remind yourself that by X3 they got so bad that they had to do a prequel that was 2 movies smashed together, and then they had to do a Days of Future Past to kind of erase all of that and start over again, and they still started. Oh my God, it's been a roller coaster of good and bad when it comes to the X-Men. But from what I hear, this ending's been retooled to give a really, really just fleshed out ending to the Fox universe of X-Men. And I think they're really going to take some care with this. So I think they really made sure to polish it up and shine it. And the previews, like I said, the more they cut the previews out as of late, they look really good. And the trip down nostalgia lane for the past 20 some odd years of X-Men it made me realize how much I loved these when they first come out. And not as much that as how much these changed the spandex, corny landscape of comic book movies and have moved us into where we're at today with them. So I thought that was really awesome to watch. If you haven't seen them, check them out. I didn't put them up anywhere because, like I said, they're everywhere. There are a bunch of TV spots. You got Chris Claremont talking about when he took over X-Men. Just really cool stuff. They're all over YouTube right now. Check those out on Marvel. They're really neat. I was impressed. But anyway, that's it for What the Fox. Like I said, there's not much in there because not much has happened yet, and I missed Tolkien. So we're going to bring up 9 Realms because we're running real low on time, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time. We might go overtime on this because I'm going to take 9 Realms into a whole other level. We never got to take it. We're going to do some speculation. But first, Avengers Endgame. Since this is out, last I checked, it was at $280 million to go to be the number 1 movie ever at the box office and finally pass Avatar. However, it has slowed down a bit, and it's going to be a tight race. It's definitely going to be a photo finish between the two in the long run. So I don't know if it's even going to make number 1. It's funny how we were so sure of it a week ago, and now we're like, oh wow, that's a big number. I kept saying, y'all, that is a big number to reach. And I knew it was going to be a battle. I just didn't know it was going to be this close of a battle. I still think it's going to eke out that number 1 of all time box office worldwide. Because, if you remember Captain Marvel, when Endgame came out, it got a second wind. And it actually jumped to number 1 again in the box office because people were going to see it before Endgame. I wouldn't doubt it if we see the same thing when Spider-Man Far From Home comes out. And when Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, Endgame gets a second wind. So that might be enough to push it over. I don't see this hitting the 3 billion mark anymore, though. I just don't think. I think it's going to come up short. I do still think it'll beat Avatar. I just don't think it's going to hit that 3 billion. But speaking of Far From Home put up some spoilerific things and let us realize that it's okay to talk about things that happened in Endgame now. And after doing, I'm in the ballpark of a little over $2.5 billion now, it's safe to say almost everyone has seen this movie. So we're going to get into some real quick future of Marvel speculation, you know what I'm saying? Because this is where we're at. This is some of the things that happen in Endgame that I question, because this is what the Russo brothers have been saying. So many timelines, even though they put the stones back and protected the timeline the best they can, many extra divert timelines have been created. And that's what they talk about in Spider-Man when they talk about the multiple dimensions and the multiverse. Many timelines have forked. And a few of them that I can just think of off top, you've got Old Cap, right? Old Cap, from the Russo brothers' mouth, they're saying when he went back with Peggy, he created an alternate timeline. And we know that the Finder can go back throughout your history and take you back there. So once that time passed, and probably Peggy was long gone, and there's no telling how old this Cap really was in this timeline, he clicked his clicker back, and that's how he wound up on the bench in his timeline to pass the shield on to Falcon and all of that. So, bam, one timeline created, but he came back to ours in the end. But that's still, nonetheless, a divergent timeline. That's one piece of the multiverse. Loki picking up the cube, and when he left, they have confirmed that sparked another timeline. Therefore, you've got another divergent timeline right there. There is a Thanos timeline that happened when Tony snapped. That is a line right now that does not have a Thanos that ever found the Infinity Stones. That is another alternate timeline. There's two alternate timelines when I really think about it for the Soul Stone, because not only do you have where they picked up the Soul Stone, once you picked up the Soul Stone, if I get this right from Infinity War, that released Red Skull from his prison watching over the Soul Stone. So now, bam, that's a timeline jump right there. But then they also say he was there when Cap returned the stone, so they had a face-off. Bam, another timeline right there, because you changed his timeline no matter what from when he sees Thanos later, and Thanos gets that stone. So that right there, without even really thinking that hard, because I'm sure I can find more, there's many alternate timelines that have been created just by this movie. So the multiverse has pretty much been fleshed out just within the multiverse of Marvel now, where you've got all these different MCU timelines that have occurred. And if you don't believe the timeline from Cap, that he jumped from the other timeline, you've got to ask yourself, where'd that shield come from then? Because his shield's broke. And the other shield, what do you do? Take that? Because if he took that shield from his body, that's another divergent timeline. Anything you do to change the timeline creates a divergent timeline. So all these divergent timelines have literally created a multiverse. So we know the future of Marvel is got what Black Widow is coming. It's in development. The Eternals is in development. There's rumor that a Nova might be in development. That's not concrete at all. But we do know Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, probably with Thor, is in development. So you got the Asgardians of the Galaxy. There's a gang of stuff that is in development that we know of. But the questions are, what are they going to revolve around? See, if this is the Infinity Saga, that's what they're calling this now. The 22 movies that make up this all the way to Endgame, probably 23 if you count Far From Home. That's the Infinity Saga, right? So if that's the Infinity Saga, then what will this next set of movies, the large picture, be? So, I mean, you know Marvel likes that slow burn. Because if you think of how they started, they told a whole story for the first half just in end credit scenes. So this next set of end credit scenes, this next set of full story that'll tie everything together, I honestly, if I had to guess, it seems like we're going into the realm of Secret Wars in one way or another. And that's because now, with all these divergent timelines, you've got many, many different versions maturing of all these heroes. If you bring in the Beyonder like you do in Secret Wars, bam! You've all of a sudden got a way to start Secret Wars, where they all start trying to battle each other to figure out who's going to be the dominant timeline now that time is basically broken into all these sections, because that's the best way to put it. They broke time. I mean, and that's an easy way to put it. They broke time. So Secret Wars would probably be a really cool spot to go next with this. Like I said, this is just me speculating from what we've seen and from my diverse reading of comic books and knowing what fits in where. So Secret Wars makes sense, and it also makes sense that these multiple timelines could be used to have the Fantastic Four pop up as they're popping from multiverse to multiverse and really trying to map everything out. You can find a multiverse that is all mutants and bring in the X-Men. I think that's a cop-out way to do it, but you could do it that way. I'd rather see them do the ultimate way where we've made mutants and little by little we start finding them. But, I mean, either way, that gives you a lot to play with when you're dealing with a multiverse. And the multiverse itself, with a greater entity attached trying to hold it all together, could literally be your Thanos that brings this all together to make a Secret Wars world. Like I said, I'm not saying that's what they're doing. It just feels that way mapped out to me. You throw in the Eternals, you throw in the celestial beings that are part of the Eternal storyline, and you're really getting into some cosmic powers now that would be looking over this and saying, look, you puny little humans on your puny little rock just broke time, and you started a chain reaction of crazy. So I could really see that's where they're going next with this. Honestly, I'm totally pumped for that. I'm not just cool with that. I'm excited if this is where we're going with this. Either way, we know we're going to a cosmic area and we're going to a high sci-fi area now. Like, comic movies have now become comic movies as of this moment, as of Endgame. Endgame dealt with time and the cosmic and the microverse, the quantum realm. All of that stuff is like Geek 101, you know what I'm saying? Like, that stuff that usually is in comics from page 1, and they took 22 movies to get there, so they really took a slow burn to get to this point. And I have a feeling they're going to slow burn us through the next 10 years, and it's going to be another giant overarching story when it comes down to it. I'll probably have a better hint of this whenever Feige decides to announce the lineup that's coming up. It'll be easier to put together. Because, I mean, like you said, I know the lineup: Black Widow, Eternals, Guardians of the Galaxy. There's definitely a Doctor Strange 2 and a Black Panther 2. All of that stuff's probably in there, you know what I'm saying? We just don't know what order and what's in between peppered in there, too, based on what we were talking about last week when they put up that whole lineup of speculated titles. So, anyway, that was fun. We don't get to speculate much because I don't like spoiler and stuff, but that was cool. I really wanted to do that to break down and let y'all know, at least put in my 2 cents of where I think Marvel's going to go from here. And anyway, I'd love to hear what y'all think. So, I mean, as always, put it in the comments. Anything I talk about, and whatever you think. If you disagree, if you got your own thoughts on it, put it in the comments, and I will talk back and forth with y'all with that because I love doing that. So let me know what y'all think. That's actually it for all the categories. That is it for the show. So, as usual, send us some emails, Snipes-n-Snarfblatts@gmail.com. Send us some emails on things you want to see at the park, things you want to endure, anything I don't mention in the show that you want to talk about, anything upcoming you want to ask me about. I'll look it up and figure it out. I keep my ear to the news on all many different levels when it comes to this stuff. So ask away, ask anything. Got any opinions you want to share that you don't want to put in the comments? Throw those in there too. Be happy to see them. Like I said, places you want to see in the park and go in the park. Walt Disney World's in my backyard. I'm there all the time. In fact, I'm there so much that is everything that's on my Instagram page. So if you want to go down into the description, right? And first, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. Give us a like even. We love that. And while you're down there in the description, I've got links to not only the website, right under that I've got all our social media. You can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Pinterest. Instagram's got beautiful pictures of the park. I do all the food for, like, say, the flower and gardens going on right now through the beginning of June. And I've got a lot of food there that I reviewed, help you know what to eat if you get down here, or just let you know what's on the menu, period. And if you can't see all the bushes and stuff and you want to see them and all the beautiful topiaries they've cut, I throw those up there, and when that's over, I'm going to fill it in with beautiful pictures of the park and the parades and everything I've just been taking throughout the years goes up there, along with even more food reviews that I'll do throughout the park, even when that's over. We're about to jump into food and wine again, so I'm going to be doing food from Food and Wine. Like I said, that's all on Instagram. It also pops up on Facebook. Facebook is another good one to follow us on, though, because Facebook will not only give you everything on Instagram doubled over to Facebook, it'll also let you know stuff as it hits the website. A lot of the stuff I talk about it on the day it happens, within hours of it happening. I don't really get into it, but I'll let you know my first thoughts on it, and then I let it stew for a while, and we talk about it on the show, along with some other stuff that don't quite hit the website. So definitely follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter is also a good place to keep updated on that stuff, as well as Pinterest. It goes up there too. So follow us on all of those, but especially Facebook and Instagram if you really want to keep up to touch and keep in contact with what we're doing here and really be part of the conversation. Because this isn't this without y'all to talk to as well. That's what makes it so much fun for me. And I love that part of this. So love going back and forth with y'all. And we've got so much stuff coming up over the next till the end of the year. There's amazing things going to happen. So, like I said, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, go down in the description, follow us on all of those social media sites because we love hearing with y'all and we love sharing stuff with y'all. But like I said earlier, that is it for the show. So I will see y'all there until next week, where not only will we have the show, the next day we will also have the review for the live action Aladdin, finally. And I always like to sign off with a Walt Disney quote, so I'm going to sign off with a Walt Disney quote this time, and it is, the difference between winning and losing is most often not quitting.